Managed home Wi-Fi? Is that even a thing? With so many options out there that come with an easy-to-use app for rapid deployment and setup, why would anyone ever consider setting up or paying a third party to manage their home Wi-Fi? I mean, are there benefits to doing this? What are the disadvantages? Well, in this video, we're going to cover maybe just some of the reasons why you should even consider doing it in your home. Hey guys, welcome to the Home Connect Solutions channel. My name is Tim Tritch, and today we are going to be talking about managed home Wi-Fi. So, I know what some of you are already probably thinking. Why would I pay someone to do something that I can do myself? And for the do-it-yourselfers out there, you have a point. This video may not be for you. The systems of today have made it very easy and a very nice, attractive option for anybody who wants to just go and get something and get it set up quickly in their home. However, for the last 2+ years, we have been managing many of the homes in our town, as well as some small businesses, home Wi-Fi and network, and we are not slowing down. So why do our customers trust us to run their network when they could just go out to Best Buy and get something on their own? So probably the biggest reason out there is going to be because of support. And here's what I mean by that. There are a lot of factors that go into your home network that allow you to get online outside of just your router. So there's your internet provider. There is the device you're trying to use to get online, whether it be a Fire Stick, a Roku, a smart TV, a laptop, whatever. And then there's the service you're trying to use, Netflix, email, Zoom, whatever. And so when you have a problem, it can be difficult to kind of figure out which one of the things is the culprit. Do you contact your internet provider? Do you need to contact your router support? Is there something you can do in the app? What should I reboot? You know, it really makes it a little bit difficult to kind of figure out what is going on. Now, sometimes the issue is really obvious. You know, sometimes something got powered off or whatever. However, there are many cases where it's not. And if you've ever reached out to a support group like Zoom or Netflix or even Roku or whatever, the first thing they're going to do is start pointing, well, do you have this enabled? Do you have at least this much speed? They're going to start asking these technical questions. That can be very difficult for the everyday consumer. Yes, it was easy to set up, but I would argue it's harder to troubleshoot. And probably the number one thing that we run into would be something like it's buffering or it's running slow. Okay, so a lot of our customers will actually call the internet company and they'll get talked into buying more speed. Speed does not fix everything, guys. If you are sitting in a traffic jam, bumper to bumper traffic, and then all of a sudden the sign comes up and says, hey, we've increased the speed from 65 miles an hour to 75 miles an hour. It doesn't matter. You're still stuck in bumper to bumper traffic. So usually we find that speed is not the culprit, and we need to either reboot a piece of equipment or something's offline that we didn't realize, that the customer didn't realize was offline, or maybe we just need to go through a series of reboots to kind of give everything a refresh. But we're definitely not going to try and talk you into more speed. And so by offering that layer of support to our customers, we can kind of really help cut through some of the garbage that they get sent from other support places. And I think that's just been a big reason why they like to use us for their home Wi-Fi. So we actually had a fairly recent example where our device and the support we have built in really, I think, saved the consumer a lot of headache and trouble. And so I was just going to kind of share a little bit with that. So the short version of it is that their Sonos speakers quit working. And while Sonos is a great product and their support are really good to work with in most cases, Sonos is famous for blaming the network. They just love to blame any issues on whether you got a router or an access point. Their system is kind of likes things a certain way when it comes to a network. So it's the number one scapegoat. We've talked to them many times. So the issue for these guys was their Sonos zones were disappearing. Sometimes they'd come back, sometimes they wouldn't. And it was just kind of all over the place. But all their other devices were working just fine. They stream in the house and everything. And so they called us up and just said, hey, what's going on? And so we looked in the system, and I was able to detect that there was some kind of rogue device broadcasting the same Wi-Fi name and password that we had built into our Wi-Fi system. So we kind of went through the, hey, do you get any new devices? Do you have a Samsung SmartThings hub? You know, whatever. Just did someone buy a router or something, plug it in? But there's something definitely broadcasting in the house. And so we ended up having to go on site because we couldn't think of anything. We did try a couple of reboots and just general troubleshooting items. It didn't work. The next day we went on site. And actually what the issue ended up being was that they had Starlink in the house. It's a rural property, so they had Starlink. And the Starlink, when we came in and installed our system, we typically put Starlink in what they refer to as bypass mode. So it's not broadcasting anything at all. It just is almost kind of like a modem. And somewhere from a power outage or a reset or something, I'm not really sure, it had put itself back in router mode, and a previous setup of the Starlink before we came along, they had used the same Wi-Fi name and password that we had configured. We had kind of reused what they were used to using. So Starlink was broadcasting the same name and password, and all the Sonos, which sits right next to it, was just connecting to that instead of our network. But yet everything else, anything that was hardlined or on the 5G network or whatever, worked just fine. It was just the sound system that wasn't working. So we were able to get in, figure that out. We configured the Starlink, fixed everything. So one, this issue will never happen again. And two, kind of put things back the way they were. And the customer didn't have to call Sonos. They didn't have to call their internet provider. They didn't have to call Starlink. They just had to work with us to figure out what was going on. And because we had a network that would kind of tell us something was up and we could see certain things, which I'll talk about in the next part of this video, we were able to resolve the issue without having to get any other support involved. And I just think about what that customer would go through had they had their own system from Best Buy hooked up, and they got Sonos on the phone, and they're trying to figure things out, and we have Wi-Fi analyzers and all sorts of tools at our disposal that we can actually use to find things that the general person doesn't. And so support really is the big reason where we really shine and where we can help people save time and money and just headache of having to deal with other kinds of support. Probably the second biggest thing, and it kind of plays off of the first story there, is our equipment tends to have an extended capability. So what does that really mean? Now, the systems you can go buy at Best Buy that come with an app do come with some really nice features built into them. We're not here to bash those systems. We're not here to say they're the worst thing. But the thing I will point out is you sort of get what you get. Unless you pay more or something, you get what's in the app. The app shows you, and that's what you get. That in a lot of cases. And some of them you have to go to the web interface to get more information, and the app shows you limited information. There's just all sorts of little things that you have to do to try and troubleshoot something. So the average person needs to know that going in. But again, not here to bash those systems, but I will say that the systems that we installed do give us some extended capabilities that I think open up opportunity to our user base. And some of these are security driven, so like VPNs, VLANs, deep packet inspection, things like that, intrusion prevention, things of that nature. Some of them are just more feature-based as far as that give us extended visibility into the network, kind of like my previous example. I could see there was a rogue AP on the network broadcasting something, and because I knew that, I could go in and actually figure out what was actually happening at the network as opposed to just rebooting things until hopefully something worked. So our systems just typically, because they're business grade and because they're not just the one you go pick up at the Best Buy or whatever, they do have extended capabilities. And one of the biggest extended capabilities that I really like, and I'm going to point out here, actually pertains to Wi-Fi, especially to our cord cutters. So, and again, I can't speak for every one of them here. There are a lot of consumer grade brands that do also enable some of these features, but one of the pain points we've run into when we go into a home has to do with many of these name brands only allow you to create one Wi-Fi name and password. That's all you get. So if it's Bob's house, you can create Bob's Wi-Fi and that's it. And that 5 gig, and that's doing both 2.4 and 5. Sometimes it's a tri-band system, so it's got a dedicated backhaul between the little satellites, or pucks as we call them, nodes, which is really great. So while that part is okay, the problem I have is with the fact that you only get one name. And the reason they do that is because having a single name gives you, and the way it's built, it allows you to roam throughout your house and have your device kind of roam from device to device. So you never drop connection. That's by design. We totally understand that. That's a great feature. Our stuff has that too. However, what about the stuff that doesn't move? Like a TV that's just sitting there streaming all day, every day. We want that device on 5 gigahertz every single time. And I've heard many arguments that, mine works just as fine on 2.4, and I will argue that it depends on where you live. But in general, of the rule of thumb, you want your streaming equipment to be on 5 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz only. It's just less susceptible to interference and all sorts of big reasons why you want that. And a lot of these consumer grade brands won't let you do that. So with our system, we actually can isolate another network and call it, Bob's Wi-Fi 5G. Make sure we connect all the TVs to that. And then that basically ensures that any device that you're streaming on or gaming on, we can do it with gaming systems, will have a faster 5 gigahertz connection as well. So it's not that the other devices won't work for streaming. That is not the case at all. But I would argue that something that has a little bit more advanced capabilities, and again, some of the consumer versions out there do have this, to give you that isolated 5 gigahertz network and still give you coverage in your house, you want the best of both worlds, are definitely a feature set you should look at. And every one of the systems that we deploy has that. Next thing I'm going to highlight that our system allows us to do that many of the other ones doesn't, and we're a service provider like ourselves that manages home Wi-Fi and manages small business Wi-Fi. One of the great benefits of it is monitoring. So what does that mean? It means that our system will actually tell us there's an issue. So if your internet goes down and you're not home, we actually know that your internet goes down and we can be proactive in getting it back up. So you don't just come home to nothing working. And one of the other things I really like about that monitoring, although some days it's a lot, is that we get alerts when all of our customers, go up or down. So we can actually see if an area town is down, or maybe the whole city's down, or maybe it's all CenturyLink customers or all Cox customers or whatever are having issues. And so what that enables us to do is actually arm you with that information. While we can't call Cox for you and we don't have anything to do with that outage, sometimes it's just an outage and there's nothing you can do about it. Being armed with that information that it's not just you. I mean, how many times when you have an outage, some of you do call your neighbors, right? But a lot of you just like, God, is it just me? Am I the only one? I don't know. And you call Cox and they're like, no, we don't see any issues. Let's reboot your modem, and they walk you through all the playbook that they have. But when our customers call, they're actually armed with that information that they know there's an outage. There is. We see it. We see it on multiple houses. We know it's an outage. And so they can actually make that call and say, instead of saying, is there an outage? They can say, when is the outage supposed to be fixed? Will you send me an alert on the mobile app or whatever it may be? When can I expect my tech to get here? We know there's an outage. And that's a very different phone call to make. When you have to rely on these big companies, and again, I'm not here to bash on them either. That's not what this is about. But they are large companies. And sometimes maybe the person who answers the phone isn't aware of an outage because it hasn't trickled down to her desk yet. And that's okay. So we can kind of be a step ahead of the game and arm our customers with the information that, yeah, there's an outage and it's not you. We'll rule out things like power. Is your power on? Yep. Okay. Is the cables plugged in? Did someone mess with anything? Nope. Okay. We can try rebooting things to try and get things back up on our own before you ever make that call. And then if none of that works, then you take the next steps, but you're armed with the information that there's an outage, as opposed to calling to find out if there's an outage and just being at the liberty of whoever answers that phone. So monitoring is a big piece of what we do. And it's something when we first got this business going, I didn't really factor it in. We were just more worried about helping people and troubleshooting. That was the part I was thinking of. But just having that visibility in town and knowing when customers are down, when they're up, whatever. It's kind of like in my previous years when I was a network engineer, or really more of a network admin, in my previous jobs, we wanted to know when we had a field office down, or if there was a certain office inside the building was down, a switch went down. We wanted our system to tell us that so we could go be proactive and get it fixed as quickly as possible. We've just taken that same business plan and that same model and built it into home Wi-Fi. And our customers have really, really liked knowing, they don't like outages, but they like knowing that if they do have to call, they're kind of armed with that information that they already know there's an outage and they're having a call based on that information, as opposed to just throwing their hands up and being at the liberty of whoever answers the phone. So why use managed home Wi-Fi? And the short answer is we can do more and we can help you better. That's really what it boils down to. And while we know the do-it-yourselfer out here is going to hear this and be like, that's not for me. I can just handle this stuff on my own. My needs are very simple. I don't need anything crazy. I can just do it myself. That person's still going to run into issues where something doesn't work and you don't know who really to blame. So you're going to start working with you're going to call the internet provider, you're going to call support on your TV, you're going to call this and try and figure things out. And it's a lot of time taken out of their day. We save our customers time and hassle and money. And even if we don't have the answer, like we don't know what's going on, as we bring these support people in, we can actually talk to them and help kind of navigate some of the stuff and get through some of the technical jargon that maybe a typical everyday consumer is going to struggle with. And so it's been very, very helpful. So I hope this benefits you guys. We'd love to talk to you. We love what we do. We get very excited to be able to help customers. Whether you're building a house, we can help with making sure we get wires in the right place and just getting everything built in. We love building Wi-Fi into new construction homes. Or if your house is 100 years old and we need to incorporate some sort of a mesh system in there, that's no problem. We can handle both. So we really would encourage you to like our channel. I have links in the description. Fill out a contact form. Give us a call. We'd love to talk to you and see if there's a way we could help you take some stuff off of your plate when it comes to your home network and your Wi-Fi.